Welcome to Harris Academics. Today we are introducing nerves, so we are going to cover the classifications, the anatomy, and function of nerve cells. There are a few ways to classify a nerve. Mainly, there's structurally, functionally, and directionally. And first, we're going to cover structural organization. With this system, you classify a nerve based on its location in the body, sort of like reading a blueprint of a structure. In this case, nerves are either part of the central nervous system or the peripheral nervous system. And the central nervous system is made up of the brain and spinal cord. So, if a nerve is located in either the brain or spinal cord, then it is part of the central nervous system. Any other nerve is part of the peripheral nervous system. Functional classification sort of involves the overlaying of two different categories. So there's somatic versus autonomic, and sensory versus motor. Now, I like to make a sort of four-square grid to see how these two categories work together to label a nerve. Somatic is the term which refers to things that you are consciously aware of. Autonomic refers to processes that you are not consciously aware of. Sensory neurons carry signals and information up to your brain for processing, and motor neurons carry that information back from the brain back down to effectors. So with these categories working together, the four resulting classifications would be somatic sensory, which would be like you seeing and smelling a cookie. Somatic motor, which would be moving your hand to get the cookie. Visceral sensory would be your blood vessels reading that your blood pressure is too high. And lastly, autonomic motor. That would be something like dilating your blood vessels to lower your blood pressure. The last naming scheme labels based on the direction the nerve carries information. So there's afferent with an A and efferent with an E. So I like to think E for exit. So efferent neurons carry information from the brain, the central nervous system, down to effectors, which of course kind of exit the signal through the body. So efferent neurons are your motor neurons. These terms are mostly interchangeable. The other term, afferent, brings sensory information up to the brain. So your afferent neurons are your sensory neurons bringing in that sensory information. Now let's take a closer look at a nerve. So this is an individual nerve cell, and it has a few characteristics which make it different from other cell types. Structurally, the nerve cell has a cell body, axon hillock, axon, and these transmissive dendrites. Transmissive because they transmit a signal to the next nerve cell in line. Not to be confused with the receptive dendrites, which receive a signal from the previous nerve cell in a line. Two important special characteristics are excitability and conductivity. To help us understand these characteristics, let's rename this nerve cell with functional classifications. The cell body and receptive dendrites form the receptive segment. This portion receives a stimulus and increases the concentration of either positive ions or negative ions in the cell. The axon hillock is called the initial segment because it initiates the action potential. The axon hillock fires or initiates the action potential when the concentration of positive ions reaches a certain threshold. This specifically is the concept of excitability. The cell may be stimulated to fire a signal. It's excitable. The axon is called the conductive segment because it conducts the signal or the action potential from the axon hillock down to the transmissive dendrites. This is the concept of conductivity. It allows the signal to rapidly cover long distances. So it conducts a signal sort of like the electricity conducting from your phone charger to your phone. Lastly, the transmissive segment, transmit neurotransmitters to the next nerve cell. So far, the example neuron we've been using has been a unipolar neuron, which means that it only has one axon. However, nerve cells come in a couple of different types. You can have unipolar, pseudo-unipolar, bipolar, and multipolar. So let's take a look at these different types. Unipolar means that it has just the one long axon. Pseudo-unipolar, like this one, means that it has one axon branching off of the cell body, which then bifurcates or splits into two different axons like a fork in the road. The bipolar neuron just has two different axons branching off of the cell body. And lastly, multipolar. Well, multipolar neurons, they have a bunch of different dendrites all branching off of the cell body. For more, check out this playlist with all of my videos on the nervous system, or try a video that YouTube recommends. Either way, thank you so much for watching, and until next time, take care.